Hi, boys and girls. This is Grandma Sheila with this week's story. Our story today is called Thoughtless Tom. Mother had been in the kitchen, and when she heard Tom come rushing in, "I'm hungry," Mom stepped out of the kitchen and she looked at his boots. They were covered with mud. Then she looked up at his clothes, and they were covered with mud as well. She said, "Tom, you can't wear them like that to go to school." His sister, Katie, she was going to tell him what he shouldn't do. And so she started saying, "Tom, you're always saying that you're never going to do it again and that you're sorry." And Mom looked at her and said, "Katie, I don't think you should tell him what he should do when I spent the whole morning this morning picking up your stuff from all over the house." Katie put her head down, and Tom thought, well, maybe now would be a good time to change the subject. And he said, "Mom, is lunch ready?" And Mother turned around again and she looked at Tom and she said, "Lunch is always on time for you guys. Always, when you get home from school." Tom didn't realize that by the next day, he would have to learn a big lesson. Well, the next day, Tom went off to school. And on the way coming back, he decided he had to climb a tree because he liked to slide down them. So he climbed the tree. When he was trying to slide down, the back seat of his pants caught on something, but he couldn't stop sliding. And then he heard rip. Then he stuck his hand back here and he tried to grab both sides of that hole in his pants. He didn't want anybody to see him like that. So he ran home as fast as he could and he rushed into the door and he said, "Mom." And Katie went, "Shh. Mom's in bed. She got sick this morning and the doctor had to come. And he says that she has to be in bed for 2 to 3 weeks. Whoa, that was a long time. And Tom said, "What are we going to do?" And she looked at Tom and she said, "I guess we have to do the best we can." And then he remembered his pants. He said, "Well, I need Mom. I'm going to go up there and talk to her." And Katie went, "You're not going up there. The doctor told me not to let anybody in her room. She needs to rest." And Tom said, "But I have a big hole in my pants. What am I going to do? Mom needs to fix it before I go back to school this afternoon." Katie said, "Well, I guess I'll have to do something about it." So he went and took his pants off, and Katie, she tried to make a patch and put it on as best as she could, so he was going to be ready for school. But then it was time for lunch, and Katie went and looked in the cupboard, and she went and looked in the refrigerator, and she said, "There's nothing here. I know what. You set the table, Tom, and I'll go down to the store and buy some food." So she rushed off to do that, and when she came back, then she started to make something that was quick so Tom wouldn't be late to go back to school. They sat down to eat, and after they ate, Tom was going to just rush away, and she said, "No, we have to do the dishes. We have to do this morning's dishes and lunch. Let's hurry." So they washed the dishes. And then Katie looked at him and said, "Tom, Please come home on time tonight. As soon as you get out of school, I'm going to need all the help I can get." And she burst out in tears. And Tom looked at her and he said, "Please don't cry, Katie. I'll be here." Well, she hoped Tom meant it. So Tom went off to school. When he came home after school was over, he came right on time. And Katie was so glad. She said, "I've worked all day, and it looks like I haven't done anything." So Tom said, "What can I do to help?" Which was quite surprising coming from Tom. And so she gave him some jobs to do, and she kept working. And the last thing that she'd asked him to do was to peel the potatoes for supper, which he seemed to gladly do. Well, it wasn't so hard when she had somebody to help. Well, those weeks took a long time to go by. But instead of going to play in that muddy field and play football every day, Tom came right home and helped his sister. With the two of them trying to do all the work, they did a really good job. At the end of those 3 weeks, the doctor had come, and Mother was allowed to come downstairs. When she got downstairs, she looked around, and she said, "It looks wonderful." And the kids were busy making supper, and everything was cleaned up. It looked just wonderful. When they sat down to eat, Mom looked at Tom and she said, "I've always called you my thoughtless boy, Thoughtless Tom. But Thoughtless Tom appears to have disappeared, and he's replaced by another Tom, and I think his name should be not Thoughtless, but Thoughtful Tom." Boys and girls, your mommies and daddies work really hard, and it would be wonderful if you would help them. You can put your clothes away. You can do all sorts of things and make it easier for the mom and dad that God's given you. Thank you, boys and girls. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.